Back in the shed, and I thought I'd make a quick video on how to put that in there. It's a shim up the Patrol LSD. It's a pretty basic job, and if you have knowledge on how to pull the diff out of the car, then this job is definitely not out of reach. It's pretty simple, and to be honest, it's probably one of the best bang for buck mods you can do to your Patrol. Having one of these in your diff, so it drives both wheels at the back, makes an absolute massive difference to your car. So for the sake of $8 and some diff oil and probably 4 hours of your time, it's definitely something that's worth doing. There's two different size shims. So this is a 0.55 and they also do a 0.7. They come from Roadrunner Off-Road. Yeah, $8. And it's sort of hard to decide what size suits you best, because I have actually had a shim in this before. Before I went to Tassie last year, I put a 0.7mm shim in it, and with the 37s on it, it just locked it. It was 100% locked, and a couple of days before we went, I pulled the diff back out and pulled the shim out. So yeah, now the wagon has a different rear diff in it, and I actually put this 0.5 shim in that diff that's in the car now, and it did next to nothing. So I pulled it, I literally drove down the road, seen it done bugger all, drove it back in the shed, pulled the diff back out, and I had the 0.7mm shim out of this diff that I ended up putting in that diff. So it depends on how flogged out the LSD is, but generally speaking, a 0.7 will lock the diff most of the time. So if you're just looking for a bit extra, yeah, a bit extra drive where, you know, you go around corners and it still doesn't skip the wheel or anything, I think a 0.55 is definitely your best bet. Now this is a H233 rear Patrol diff, obviously. This is a GQ and early GU LSD. The later GUs, I'm not really sure what models, but they come with a smaller LSD and they are rubbish. And the H260 LSD is obviously bigger, so this will not work. So yeah, H233, GQ and early GU rear diff. So first off, straight up, make sure these are marked, or what I do is just put left to left and right to right and keep it that way, because you do not want to mix these up at all. So yeah, either mark them or do whatever you have to do to make sure you don't mix them up. But 19mm bolts, and straight up I just undo the 4 bolts and just pull the whole center out that way. Ugga dugga gun. Brass hammer. Alright, now that's out, undo all the ring gear bolts and then knock the ring gear off. 17. The ring gear came off pretty easy, just slipped off. So if it doesn't, usually brass hammer, slight knocks, it'll come off. And because I'm a little bit dodgy sometimes, I've been in here before and it's missing the 3 screws because we didn't have a press. So yeah, I undone all them and this is actually about to come off now, so don't do that. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but there is a marking there. So that helps you line it back up when you're putting it back together. And there's all the clutch packs in there, so everything looks pretty good. There is a spacer washer there, so don't lose that. And also, don't put it back together with this on the piss. That's happened to me once before. It's half on the hole like that. It's pretty easy to do. Now, because I actually have time and I don't feel like being dodgy, that broken end bolt, I'm gonna actually try and get that out and try to find another 3 set of screws. So that's what happens when you are in a rush. This shit happens, so I'll try to sort that out. All right, just welded a nut to it. come out easy. Oh, I think the problem will be is I've got to find some screws now. I'm not 100% sure, but I am fairly sure this is a later GU LSD. I don't know why I've got one on the shelf, but anyway, I'm fairly certain that's what they look like. So if you pull your diff out and you see this, this is scrap metal. So bin that, and you need to find one of these. This is what it looks like when you pull the whole center out. So this is a bottom set of clutch packs. The smooth one's always to the outside. Yeah, there's the top clutch packs, same looking thing. And yeah, this is a centery. So if we pull this apart, like that, and it's the same on the bottom, it's just the cup that comes off. Now, if you wanted to weld this diff, you just have to weld the spider gears, all the four smaller gears to the two main side gears. So yeah, if you just welded all that together, same on the bottom, and then put it back together, it's just like putting a mini spool section in, but dodgier. So I have done that before, and yeah, it lasted years before I got sick of it and pulled it out. So yeah, if you do want to weld it, do that. If not, one of these. So I honestly couldn't tell you, but I've seen people put them on the bottom, and I've seen people just put them straight on top of this stack here. So I couldn't tell you if there's a right or wrong way. I'm going to put it on the very top, just so it's easier to sort of line up. You can see with your eyes that it's lined up, and if you ever had to pull it out, it's only a matter of just pulling the cap back off and sliding the shim out. So I just thought I'd yeah, show you what it looks like in there. All right, well, the shim is sitting on there. To make sure it's perfectly lined up. Don't forget your line up mark on this end, line it up with that, and yeah, just pretty much put the top on, and just make sure that this surface here is 100% clean. Nearly looks like it's had a bit of Loctite seep in there, so I'll clean that up, put it back together. Just got to find some screws to hold it together. It's very important to, when you are dropping this top on, try and line it up so that when you drop it, like, you don't have to move it around to make it slot over, because then that can move the shim and then it can pinch between the two plates. So yeah, you want to try and line it up and just get a nice drop on it. Otherwise, yeah, just slip it back off, line the shim back up. Might take you a couple goes, but you might find when you put it in the press to press it together, get the screws in, that it won't fully sit home, and yeah, it may be pinched in there. So one thing to look out for. All right, so I've got in the press, found some bolts. They're obviously not the factory ones, but they will serve their purpose. So what you need to do is make sure the holes are lined up, press it closed, and then just put the screws in there. So the screws are only there just to locate and hold it together where you get the ring gear on there. So your other option might be is a vise, but that'd be tricky because it's on its side, and they might not open far enough. But I don't know, if you're a bit dodgy, maybe trolley jack or bottle jack, a couple of blocks of wood, put it under your car and jack off something, or put it under something, and yeah, just try and close it a bit. Or if you're a bit more dodgy, then just use the cram wheel bolts, try and close it up with that. So either way, yeah, the best bet is vise, put the screws in, job done. So press closed. You can visually see that this is hard up. That's one thing to check. Like if you've pinched the shim or for whatever reason, you will notice a gap there, but that is hard up. And then yeah, the screws literally just do up, and they are there to just hold that together for now. Do not try and close it with the screws. That's how you end up with the problem I was in. All right, it's back together. Number one thing is make sure everything's clean, so all the Loctite off the old bolts, wire wheel, clean them up perfectly, and clean out all the holes on the ring gear. Definitely, that is something that is a must. Alright, so I've cleaned both surfaces, brake clean, and I run over it with a bit of Scotch-Brite quickly, and then, yeah, just rag it all off, clean it up. Sometimes the ring gear is hard to get up on there because there's such a tight fit. So I don't know about this one, I haven't tried, but it fell off pretty easy, so I'll be able to get it back on pretty easy, I reckon. But if you are having dramas, a hot tip is either put the ring gear in a sandwich press or something similar to that, the oven, or but if you're in a workshop and got an old sandwich press, a couple of bits of plate on the top and bottom, put the ring gear in the sandwich press, heat it up, and then yeah, it should slip straight on. So slide it up, get all the bolts in, and she's good to go. All right, that pulled on pretty easy. I just pulled it up with my hands, got all the bolts in, and just nipped them up with the rattle gun just to pull it up even. So yeah, that's good. And you have to make sure that the surfaces are clean, the bolt holes are clean in the ring gear, the bolts are clean. Everything has to be spotless, because if you put one of these bolts in and it kicks out a bit of dry Loctite and sandwiches it between the two faces, then you end up with a run out on your gear. It might not be much, but once you get it back in and ready to go, it will have a tight spot. So that's very important to make sure everything's clean. So when I'm at this stage, the ring gear is roughly bolted up, sort of half tight, I guess. What I like to do is, obviously it needs Loctite, so now that it's all done up and hard pressed, I do just one by one, just bolt out, Loctite, bolt it back in, do opposites all the way around till you're done, and then get the torque wrench and torque it all up. So you don't want to Loctite at the start for the same reason. I said before, you'll end up with Loctite between the two surfaces, and then you'll end up with run out on your gear. So definitely this way is the go. Bolt it up, one by one Loctite, and then torque wrench to torque them up to spec. The torque setting for the ring gear bolts is 132 to 152 Newton meters. So crank this thing up and torque them up. So crisscross and then all the way around. Job done. Now to pull this little 10mm bolt out. Holds that on. So pull that off on both of them. We'll clean this up and then sit it back in there. Alright, so it's sitting in there. Now you screw these end caps in. This, do that with two ends. So what this does is you have one either side, and you push the ring gear in or out into the pinion. That gives you your backlash. So obviously it's too far out, so I would screw this one in and screw that one out and shift the whole thing across into the pinion gear, and then until it's the correct backlash. Alright, so it's near enough set up. It seems Jesse's got the tool that we got to do these up, and we also don't have a dial indicator in the shed. So Jesse's going to come around tomorrow night with the dial indicator, and then dial it all in, set the backlash up. We'll check for run out as well on the back of the ring gear there, and then just because we'll put some bearing paste on there and check the gear mesh. So But if you wanted to make your own tool for doing this, obviously it's a ruler, but if you had a bit of flat bar or angle on or something like that, just measure the distance from that point to that point. Obviously outside to outside, drill 2 holes, put 2 bolts in it, and yeah, obviously the bolts go into here, the threaded parts will go into there with your bit of angle on or whatever. Then you can just do it up like that. So easier than using a screwdriver or something dodgy. Well, I've done all I can do tonight, I think, so we'll wait for Jesse to come around tomorrow night and finish this off. But yeah, we'll pick it up then. Kicking back off from yesterday. Jesse here setting the backlash. 0.15 to 0.20 is the spec, and ring gear run out's 0.08. So we'll check all that.
And we'll give it a bearing blue.
Spot on, 0.15 is the go. Now check, it's good to check it in multiple spots, just in case you have slight run out. So we'll do that, and then we'll check the run out as well.
How's that for run out? About 0.03, 0.04 tops.
So she's in spec, well and truly.
Wow.
The keepers are on, and then these bolts, 4 bolts, torque is 93 to 103 Newton meters. So crank them up, make sure the keeper's done up, job done. It's always good to check bearing blue. We obviously didn't touch the pinion depth, so the gear mesh should still be fine, but doesn't hurt to have a look. Hard to see, but we have good contact.
About time to bolt her in.
All right, well that's job done. It's all back together, ready to bolt in. I have no idea when I'm going to do that, but maybe in the next week or two. We'll see how I go. And as per usual, if you have made it this far, drop a like, drop a comment, whatever. And don't forget to subscribe. And stay tuned for hopefully yeah, a bit more driving content once this lockdown's over. So other than that, yeah, we'll see you on the next one.